Alright everybody, it's time to talk scout rifles. Previously on the series, we have talked about the best shotguns, sniper rifles, rocket launchers, LMGs, fusion rifles, pulse rifles, bows, SMGs, auto rifles, and hand cannons. Now we're going back to the primary weapons, and we're going to be talking about the best scout rifles to dominate PvE, and that would only leave us with sidearms as the only primary weapon class left after this video. Also, remember, Instant Gaming's having some pretty monster Black Friday deals going on. If you ever want to get your games in their DLC for a cheaper price, save yourself some cheddar. Instant Gaming is the place to be for all of your gaming needs. Definitely take advantage of those Black Friday deals and save yourself some of your greenbacks. Very top link in the description. Go ahead and head over there. And of course, GFORCE as well, having their BOGO deal for Black Friday. If you want to stay energized, focused, and hydrated while you're gaming, kicking some butt, GFORCE is the best drink in the business. Top links in the description. And now, let us go ahead and begin. Alright, and here we go. We're going to be starting off with the Stasis Scout Rifle of choice. Remember, this series is only legendary weapons. No exotics will be featured here. So our Stasis Scout Rifle of choice is actually going to be a little bit of a surprise to some people. We're talking about the Persis D Legendary Scout Rifle, introduced with the Witch Queen. This bad boy is a world drop scout, albeit a pretty common one at that. It is a high impact frame 150 RPM scout rifle, and it does have a pretty decent perk pool to complement it. So if I go ahead and throw up this weapon's perk pool for you, you're going to see in the third column, you have two main options of perk to choose from that are actually going to help you out inside of PvE. That being rapid hit, as rapid precision hits temporarily increase stability and reload speed. Very useful on a slower firing weapon. And your other main option in the third column is going to be shoot to loot. Who doesn't like being able to pick up their ammo from a distance and or orbs of power from a distance with shoot to loot? Very useful utility perk you definitely see here and there inside of PvE. And especially because the main playstyle of a scout rifle is, you know, chilling in the back of the map, not being too aggressive. Picking up ammo with shoot to loot from a far distance fits this weapon perfectly. Hard to go wrong with either shoot to loot or rapid hit in the third column. And then in the fourth column, you do have at least a couple options. However, there's one main option that's going to definitely stand out. That main option is of course going to be none other than explosive payload, which results in an overall 30% increased damage inside of PvE, which is very useful. But it does have things like one for all, and because it's a Stasis scout rifle, it does have headstone as well. And on a higher impact scout rifle such as the Persis, it could definitely be pretty useful. Although my preferred role for this weapon is definitely shoot to loot and explosive payload. That is the role you're seeing in the background gameplay. Pretty darn useful scout rifle. My buddy has definitely used this weapon a lot inside of Grandmasters, and it can definitely cook and put in some pretty decent work even for a high impact Stasis scout. Remember that Stasis and strand weapons, at least primary wise, they do 10% less damage than your kinetic primaries. Just keep that in mind whenever you are using a Stasis or a strand primary weapon. But overall, a pretty decent scout rifle. Strand scout rifle time. We're going to be going to the Crota's End raid, baby, because we're going to be talking about a former Arc scout rifle that was in Destiny 1 turned to strand inside of Destiny 2. We are talking about the Fang of I. This bad boy is a rapid fire frame, which means it is a 260 RPM scout rifle with a pretty decent perk pool. However, when I throw out this perk pool for you, you will notice there is a glaring weakness to the scout rifle that is kind of not cool. So I throw it up real quick. What do you see that is missing from this perk pool? That's right, we're missing explosive payload. That does kind of suck. However, it does have some other perks. Column 3, my boy. We got our good old shoot to loot. We also have other decent perks to go ahead and try and use, such as rewind rounds, just so you can fire the weapon for longer periods of time without actually having to reload the weapon. And we have Rapid Hit in this third column as well. I would say that is the 3 best perks inside of column 3 for this weapon: Shoot to Loot, Rewind Rounds, and Rapid Hit. And then in column 4, we are lacking a little bit because we don't have our classic explosive payload that is so good on scout rifles. However, we do have some perks to work with. I think the main perk that people are going to work with and use in the 4th column has got to be Sword Logic, man. Sword Logic can give you an easy 15% or 25% damage buff inside of PvE just for defeating enemies. You can get up to a 50% damage buff. However, I don't think you're going to be killing bosses with the scout rifle that often. 35% may be a bit more manageable to achieve in something like a Grandmaster. However, it is still a primary weapon after all. But getting a 15% damage buff for defeating any minor red bar enemy will be very helpful, and a 25% will come from elites. I would definitely have to say Sword Logic's the best in this 4th column, although you do have, I mean, you could maybe play around with Hatchling a little bit, although I really feel like Hatchling has got to be a bit better than what it is currently. And you do have Golden Tricorn, which could be useful with something like a Strand Grapple Melee for giving yourself a 50% damage buff. Could be pretty fun to play around with and experiment with. Now, I do got to talk about this bad boy's origin trait because I love the origin trait on the Crotas and weapons, that of course being Cursed Thrall, as after a melee kill for 7.5 seconds, weapon kills with this weapon are going to cause enemies to explode. Very simple to proc and very rewarding for what it is doing. Since Strand is still a relatively new element in the game, we don't have nearly as many options when it comes to Strand weapons just yet, but the Fang of I is still a pretty decent rapid fire frame Strand scout rifle, especially with that Cursed Thrall origin trait. Alright, now we're going to talk about the Kinetic scout rifle. Also, let me use this time to remind you that your boy do be streaming on Twitch at least 3 to 4 times a week. Twitch.tv/Kree. Almost up to 100 followers on the Twitch channel. Now, the Kinetic scout rifle of choice is actually pretty darn nasty, as we are talking about the Season 20 version of the Hung Jitty SR4, initially a dead orbit weapon back in Destiny 1. Of course, we don't have Factions of Destiny 2, but it is a Nightfall weapon inside of Destiny 2. And at the top of Season 20, when this thing made its return, a lot of people were looking at this bad boy for a certain reason. So let's go ahead and throw up this Precision Frame 180 RPM Scout Rifles perk pool. In the 3rd column, you have some decent options. Now, I will be front with you and say that this weapon does have a similar weakness to the Fang of I that we just talked about. However, it can make up for it in a different way that the Fang of I can't. 3rd column, we got Rapid Hit Juicer. I traditionally like subsistence on most primary weapons, but since scout rifles have such a low magazine size, I really don't think subsistence is actually going to be the move here on this weapon. Instead, I would definitely go for either Rapid Hit or Shoot to Loot, which this weapon does have in its 3rd column, and its 4th column is pretty darn good. The 3 best perks in this weapon's 4th column are easily Frenzy, Kinetic Tremors, and Firefly. So, you know how I just said that this weapon does have a weakness similar to the Fang of I? That is that this version of the Hung Jury does not have access to explosive payload for some reason. However, it can make up for it with Kinetic Tremors. This perk is super good. And on scout rifles, it does take 6 shots to proc, which is similar to a hand cannon, although scout rifles have a fatter magazine than a hand cannon anyways at base. You combine that with the fact that Kinetic Tremors has some synergy with Shoot to Loot, and the fact that the shockwaves from Kinetic Tremors can actually proc Shoot to Loot and pick up orbs and or ammo, and that shockwave's radius, that is how it makes up for its lack of explosive payload. Of course, you do have your good old tried and true Frenzy. A 15% damage buff and 100 handling along with 100 reload speed is always welcomed on almost just about any weapon in the game, honestly. And then you do have Firefly to help clear out ads if you do not get a Kinetic Tremors roll. Although I would say Firefly is probably the weakest out of the main 3, with Kinetic Tremors being the main one to pair with Shoot to Loot. Not many weapons in the game have access to the Shoot to Loot Kinetic Tremors roll. However, the Hung Jury does, and for that reason, it gets the nod for the Kinetic slot in this video. Okay, let us now segue to the light affinity scout rifles. Also, I'm serious, bro. Make sure to hit up Instant Gaming's deals. Those Black Friday deals are insane. We're going to start off with ARC for the light affinity scouts. I'm about to tell y'all this bad boy is a juicer. We're talking about the tarnished metal from Season 18, Season of the Plunder. Pretty mediocre season. However, this scout rifle is absolutely a juicer. It is awesome. So, it's a lightweight frame scout rifle, and it has some pretty darn good perks, homie. If I throw up the perk pool for this scout rifle, you will notice it's juicers. First of all, I like shoot to loot, so anytime I see shoot to loot on a primary weapon, yeah, I'm gonna mention it. Shoot to loot's here. Demolitionist is here in the third column, and you also have access to rapid hit as well. 3 really good perks that you could definitely go with depending on what you're gonna go with in the fourth column. Now, in the fourth column, this is a ARC Scout, so you know you're going to see your good old Volt Shot here, which can still be very, very useful. However, unlike the last 2 Scout rifles that we talked about, this bad boy does have access to explosive payload. Yes, please, 30% damage increase. We will happily take that. It also does have Dragonfly. However, I believe these 2 main perks in the fourth column for this scout rifle that people are going to use are either explosive payload and Volt Shot. So, what to pair with explosive payload? I would definitely go with either shoot to loot or demolitionist, man. Demo explosive payload, that's kind of a juicer. Come on, man, that's kind of a juicer roll. Let's just be real. And then with Volt Shot, I think the best perk to pair with Volt Shot has got to be Rapid Hit. The reason why I don't think Demo's the best to pair with it, even though I love Demolitionist on just about any weapon it's on, is because if you are trying to proc Volt Shot as much as you can, as fast as you can, as efficiently as you can, throwing a grenade to reload your weapon does not proc Volt Shot, which is not cool. That's why Rapid Hit is perfect for the Volt Shot roll. Because Rapid Hit gives you increased ability and reload speed just off of precision hits. Faster reload means more Volt Shot procs. Pretty simple, self-explanatory. However, any mix match of these 5 perks on screen, the 3 from the third column and the main 2 from the fourth column, you're gonna feel just how good this scout rifle is. Tarnished metal easily takes the cake as the best ARC scout rifle in the game, in my opinion. Only problem is that there's no direct way to get it because they're not in any of the exotic mission rotators. They, as in Season of the Plunder weapons. So in the meantime, you can just cope with the contingency plan. But the Tarnished Metal, awesome, awesome weapon. Now, we're going to move over to the Void. Because this Void Scout Rifle, I really enjoy using. It has a really, really strong perk pool. Has some pretty fun little gimmicky roll as well. And overall, is a pretty damn good weapon. The weapon I am talking about, take a guess real quick. Nah, I'm just kidding. It's from King's Fall. It is the Doom of Chelchis, my boy. 180 RPM precision frame scout rifle with a really good Orden trait and runneth over. Basically just access overflow as long as you are reloading this weapon around allies in your fire team, which can be pretty useful. However, the actual perk pool is really good. You know why this perk pool is really good? Because if I throw it up on screen for you, look at that juicer in the third column. That's right, bro. They got explosive payload in this weapon's third column. What? Yep. That's what you call a pretty darn good start. Another cool perk that it has in the third column that is generally a fourth column perk is Firefly. Damn, son. I think any of those 2 perks from the third column is definitely your best bet. Although, this weapon does have some other gimmicky rolls with double damage rolls. Because it does have Vorpal weapon as well, and explosive payload, both in the third column. Now, in the fourth column, whew, dude, I'm just going to read it off to you. Repulsive Rays can be pretty good on some Void builds. One for All is a perk that I'm a pretty big fan of, as it's easy to proc, and it's a 35% damage buff. My favorite perk on primary weapons, Frenzy, is here in the fourth column. I'm not going to recommend Focus Fury. I'm just not. But it's there. And you have Dragonfly in the fourth column as well. Meaning, the gimmick rolls that I was referring to go as follows. Firefly, Dragonfly. That's just fun. That's just kind of a fun roll to play around with right there. Maybe explosive payload in One for All. However, my favorite double damage roll on this scout rifle, because this weapon has a decent combination of both, is easily explosive payload, and frenzy. How can you not like a weapon that has both of these perks at the same time? I crafted explosive payload and frenzy on the DEEPCOOL, and I never looked back. It serves me well anytime I use it. And even if you don't want to use explosive payload frenzy, you have other options, dude. Like explosive payload repulsor race is going to be good on any void build. Firefly frenzy is just a nice overall roll on primary weapons. Firefly dragonfly is just a fun gimmick roll. But you actually have access to a legitimate double damage roll on this scout rifle. Explosive payload and frenzy is such an awesome combo. But you could also go with explosive payload and dragonfly if you wanted to. My point is that this scout rifle has so many good perks and perk combinations going for it, along with a pretty decent origin trait for some icing on the top of the cake. It is from the King's Fall raid, and I would definitely say getting this weapons pattern is worth it 1000%. Shout out to the DEEPCOOL, baby. You easily take the void spot for this video. Alright, time to round it out with our Solar Scout Rifle, baby. And our Solar Scout Rifle of choice is going to be from Season of the Haunted. At least that's when it was introduced as a world drop. But it is actually the Staccato 46. Good old world drop Solar Scout Rifle. And it has some pretty decent perks. Go ahead and look at this bad boy's perk pool. You'll see that it has some decent combinations and some decent utility. Third column, shoot to loot, baby. Scout rifle with shoot to loot is always going to have some decent utility inside of any content in the game. Who doesn't like picking up ammo or orbs from a decent range? Now you could probably go with some other perks if you don't get shoot to loot. Maybe like triple tap could be pretty decent, or even outlaw could be pretty decent as well. But in the fourth column, you have two main options here. We have, of course, the one and only tried and true explosive payload, and because this is a solar scout, you have the other option of incandescent, the best solar perk for any primary weapon. Really hard to go wrong with either of those two perks. Of course, if you're going for a shoot to loot roll, I would definitely say explosive payload's a little bit better than incandescent, just because the explosive rounds can help pick up ammo and orbs from shoot to loot, just making it a little bit easier. But something like outlaw incandescent can be pretty good to help clear out some trash tier ads. Who doesn't like that? Now I will say another honorable mention scout rifle that is solar would have to be the trusty from Deepstone Crypt. However, it does not have shoot to loot. Instead, your best option would probably be like rapid hits to pair with incandescent. And the Trusty is a 260 rapid fire frame RPM scout rifle if that is your more preferred archetype, while the Staccato is a precision frame 180 RPM scout rifle. However, because I like shoot to loot on my scout rifles, I have to give the nod to the Staccato for the solar scout rifle of this video, although the Trusty is pretty good. The Staccato's got 5 main perks you're going to be looking for to use on this scout rifle. Shoot to loot explosive payload, triple tap incandescent, and or outlaw with explosive payload or incandescent are all going to be really good combos to go for. I wish I could put my vision of confluence in this part of the video, but unfortunately, the vision is outclassed. And there we have it, ladies and gentlemen, the best scout rifles to dominate PvE. Remember to hit up Instant Gaming for those monster Black Friday deals on any of your gaming and or DLC needs. Thank you so much for watching the video. You guys be safe, take care, consider subscribing. We'll see your beautiful faces in the next one. Adios.